It was midnight, and the only light in the Thompson house came from a lamp in the living room. Sarah Thompson, a single mother, was curled up on the couch, watching a true crime documentary. Her 10-year-old son, Ethan, was fast asleep in his room, unaware of the world outside. Sarah had always felt safe in her neighborhood, but lately, she had seen a strange figure lurking around. She tried to ignore it, thinking it was just her imagination. But tonight, she felt uneasy, as if something was wrong. Suddenly, she heard a faint scratching sound coming from the back door. Her heart raced. She paused the documentary and listened closely. The scratching continued, followed by a low whisper. "Let me in." Fear gripped her. She grabbed her phone, ready to call 911, but before she could dial, the sound stopped. Taking a deep breath, she tried to convince herself it was just the wind, but the feeling of unease remained. Minutes passed, and Sarah decided to check on Ethan. She tiptoed down the hallway, her heart pounding with every creak of the floorboards. When she reached his room, she opened the door slightly and peeked in. He was sleeping soundly. Relieved, she closed the door and went back to the living room. But as she turned to sit down, she froze. The back door was open, swinging slightly in the breeze. Panic surged through her. Had she left it unlocked? She rushed to the door, her mind racing with thoughts of what could happen if someone had entered. Just as she reached for the doorknob, she heard a soft thud from the hallway. "Ethan," she called, but there was no answer. She grabbed a nearby lamp, feeling a little safer, and crept toward the sound. As she approached the hallway, she saw a shadow dart past the edge of Ethan's door. Adrenaline coursed through her veins. She swung the lamp, ready to defend herself, but the hallway was empty. "Ethan!" she shouted again, her voice shaking. She burst into his room, only to find it empty. The bed was neatly made, and the window was wide open. A cold breeze swept through the room, sending chills down her spine. She turned to run back to the living room when she heard a soft giggle behind her. Spinning around, she saw a figure standing in the corner, cloaked in darkness. It was a man, his face hidden, but his eyes glinted with malice. "You shouldn't have looked for him," he whispered, stepping closer. In a moment of sheer terror, Sarah swung the lamp, but he was too quick. He grabbed her wrist, twisting it painfully. "You're going to regret this," he hissed, pulling her toward the window. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah kicked him hard in the shin, breaking free from his grip. She dashed down the hallway, her heart racing as she reached for her phone. But before she could dial, the lights flickered, plunging the house into darkness. In the pitch black, she could hear him moving closer, his breath heavy and labored. "You can't hide from me," he taunted, his voice echoing in the silence. Desperate, Sarah stumbled into the kitchen, searching for anything she could use as a weapon. She grabbed a knife from the counter just as the figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted by the faint light from the street outside. With a primal scream, she lunged at him, the knife glinting in the dim light. But he was faster, knocking it from her hand and pinning her against the wall. "You should have stayed quiet," he growled, his breath hot against her face. Just then, the sound of sirens pierced the night air. The intruder's eyes widened in panic. He released her and bolted toward the back door, disappearing into the darkness. As the police arrived, Sarah collapsed to the floor, shaking uncontrollably. They found her son safe in a neighbor's house where he had gone to play. The nightmare was over, but the scars of that night would linger forever. A haunting reminder of the darkness that lurked just outside her door. In the days that followed, Sarah struggled to feel safe again. She installed new locks, added security cameras, and even joined a neighborhood watch group. But every creak of the floorboards at night sent her heart racing, and every shadow felt like a reminder of the intruder. One evening, as she sat on the couch, she decided to confront her fears. She pulled out a notebook and began to write down everything that had happened that night. Writing it down helped her feel a little better, but it also brought back the memories in vivid detail. She wrote about the scratching sound, the whisper, and the moment she faced the intruder. Determined to reclaim her life, Sarah reached out to her neighbors, sharing her experience and encouraging them to be vigilant. They formed a small group that met weekly to discuss safety measures and share updates about any suspicious activity in the area. This support helped her feel less alone, and slowly, she began to feel a sense of community returning. One night, while attending a neighborhood watch meeting, Sarah noticed a new family had moved in across the street. They seemed friendly, and she introduced herself. The mother, Lisa, had a warm smile and a reassuring presence. They quickly bonded over their shared experiences of motherhood and the challenges of raising children in a sometimes unsafe world. As weeks turned into months, Sarah grew more comfortable in her surroundings. She allowed Ethan to play outside with the neighborhood kids, always keeping a watchful eye from the porch. The laughter of children filled the air, and for the first time since the incident, she felt a glimmer of hope. However, one fateful evening, as Sarah was preparing dinner, she noticed a figure standing at the edge of her yard. Her heart dropped as she recognized the silhouette. It was the same man from that terrifying night. Panic surged through her, and she quickly grabbed her phone, ready to call for help. But before she could dial, the figure turned and ran. Confused and terrified, she rushed outside, calling for Ethan to come inside. The neighborhood watch group sprang into action, quickly organizing a search. They combed through the area, but the man had vanished into the night. The police were called again, and this time they took her concerns seriously. They increased patrols in the area and advised Sarah to stay vigilant. The fear that had begun to fade came rushing back, but this time, she was not alone. Her neighbors rallied around her, offering support and ensuring she felt safe. In the following weeks, Sarah took self-defense classes, empowering herself with the skills to protect her family. She learned to trust her instincts and became more aware of her surroundings. The experience had changed her, but it also made her stronger. As the seasons changed, Sarah found comfort in the beauty of her neighborhood. She began to appreciate the small moments, the laughter of children playing, the warmth of her neighbors, and the comfort of her home. The darkness that had once loomed over her life began to fade, replaced by a sense of resilience and community. One evening, as she sat on her porch watching the sunset, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had faced her fears and emerged stronger. The Watcher may have tried to invade her life, but he had only succeeded in uniting her community and igniting a fire within her to protect what mattered most.